All right, y'all, welcome back to another episode of Retro Rewire. My name is JJ, and we're gonna continue my 2020 pickups. In part one, we took a look at my Sega, Xbox, and NEO GEO pickups. I'll leave a link in the description down below so you can check that out. This episode is all about PlayStation, and like that previous episode, I'm gonna go ahead and focus on the hardware first, some controllers, and then we'll move on to the video games. So let's go ahead and get things underway. Now, my first pickup was a PlayStation. It was the very first PlayStation, the SEPH 1000 model, and I ended up paying 50 cents for this thing. I found it in the junk section at a Wonder X recycle shop. Definitely happy with this pickup. I had to tweak the CD-ROM drive a bit, but after doing so, it works great, and I'm definitely happy with that freaking monster savings for this system. Now, the other PlayStation that I got is a PS2 in the metallic blue, and I ended up getting this from the junk section at a hard off, and I paid 10 bucks for it. It reads all the discs just fine, so another interesting and definitely a cool find for my collection. And then finally, the last PlayStation traditional console that I got was a PlayStation 4. And this one I actually ended up trading my Xbox Slim for. I paid 150 for my Slim, so I guess you can say that I paid about 150 for the PlayStation 4. But definitely happy with those three pickups, as I'm a pretty big PlayStation fan. But anyhow, let's go ahead and continue with the handhelds. So I ended up picking not one, not two, but three PlayStation Portables. I got two of them here. I got these two are fat models. I ended up getting this one at a Sudogaya for 20 bucks and this one at a hard off for 20 bucks. They were both considered pretty much junk items just because the screens are not in perfect condition. But this one actually has a screen protector on it, but definitely happy with both of these systems, as the PlayStation Portable is definitely a cool little handheld. Now, the third PlayStation Portable that I got is a PSP 3000. And the 3000, the reason why I got this one is because I wanted to connect it to my CRT, because occasionally, you know, I want to play on a bigger screen. But also another junk bin find. Now, the screen isn't in the best condition, but it does have a screen protector. And yeah, definitely happy with this purchase as well. All right, y'all, so let's go ahead and talk about controllers. Now, in episode 2 of Retro Rewire, I ended up talking about a few light guns and a few games. First one is a gun con from Namco, and as you can see here on the other side, right over here, I ended up paying $2 for this thing. It's complete in box, it's in awesome condition, and a lot of these can be found for dirt cheap, sometimes as low as $1. And it's usually it's because, you know, it requires the use of a CRT, you know, to play the light gun games, and it's an ancient technology that a lot of people don't have access to. But definitely a cool find for 2 bucks. And the other light gun that I got, let me just grab it here, is the Horned Owl bundle from Konami. This is the Hyper Blaster here. I paid $3.50 and I got this from Amazon Japan. Definitely a cool find. And it also included a complete copy of the game. And yeah, definitely happy with both of these light guns. All right, so let's go ahead and talk about a few controllers. Now, the more interesting of the lot that I got is this Hoary pocket controller. I paid about $3. I got this at a hard off in the junk section. And it was a little bit dirty when I first got it, but I cleaned it up as best as I could, and it works perfectly fine. Definitely an interesting find. I also got like your standard DualShock PlayStation controller. I actually prefer the standard controller, the smaller one without the analog sticks, but it's good to have these analog sticks for the games that, you know, take full advantage of that, as well as, you know, having like the rumble feature. And then I also got two arcade sticks, one from Hoary, which is the Fight Stick Mini, the first generation model, which has excellent build quality, and it's usually my go-to controller when playing you know, 2D games on the PlayStation. And I also got an arcade stick from Namco, which I paid $10. I actually paid $10 for both of the controllers, and yeah, definitely cool finds there. I'm definitely a fan of arcade sticks, but I think I'm pretty much at capacity for sticks for the time being. But anyhow, let's go ahead and move on to some video games and check out, I guess we'll start with PlayStation Portable. I actually only ended up getting one game for the PSP, which is Princess Crown. Now, as you know, I also have this on the Sega Saturn. I picked it up this year, and this one was definitely a lot less expensive. And I think I paid about $9, and I ended up getting it from Amazon Japan. It is complete and definitely a cool find. I definitely want to get into the Princess Crown business a little bit more. And now let's go ahead and talk about my PlayStation 4 pickups. Didn't get too many PlayStation 4 games, but I guess I'll just go down the line here. I ended up getting Killzone, and I paid $7 for this one. Definitely an interesting first-person shooter. I am a Killzone fan, and I think I prefer the ones on the PlayStation 3 a bit more. And then I got the latest Uncharted, I think A Thief's End. I can't remember what it's called. But anyhow, definitely an interesting pickup. I paid $6.80 for this, and I'm looking forward to giving that one a playthrough. Here's one that I've been looking forward to playing for quite some time, which is Shenmue 3. I ended up getting this one from Amazon Japan, and it was at 14 bucks. Definitely a cool find, and one that I'm definitely looking forward to playing, as it looks like an interesting follow-up to the Shenmue series. And then the rest of the games are pretty much Resident Evil. I'm a Resident Evil nut, but anyhow, I got the Resident Evil Origins collection. Definitely like both of these. And yeah, I have a platinum actually on the original Resident Evil, but definitely one that I wanted to add to my collection. And as well, we have Resident Evil 4. Now, this is one that I have on numerous machines. I shouldn't probably be buying more copies of this game, but I don't know, with each iteration that comes out for the new console, if it comes out on PlayStation 5 when I eventually get one, I'll probably get it because I'm crazy like that. But actually, PlayStation 5 is compatible with PS4 games, so may not need to do that. But definitely an interesting one, and I ended up paying, gosh, I can't remember. I got it from Amazon Japan, and it must have been like 14 or 15 bucks, maybe 20 bucks. I'll have to double check. But anyhow, then we have Resident Evil 7, and now this one I paid $19.80, as you can see here on the tag. And definitely an interesting game. I've only played the first initial section, but I'm definitely looking forward to playing this, as it looks like it's a pretty thrilling game. But anyhow, that's pretty much it for PlayStation 4. So now let's go ahead and move on to PlayStation 1. Now I ended up getting Ridge Racer, the original one here, complete with the spine card. Paid $2.64 for this guy, and definitely a nice little racer, and one that I think we should all experience in one point or another. And I actually ended up also getting the greatest hits. I think I got the greatest hits before I got that version, and this one was $1. And yeah, whatever. The more Ridge Racer, the better, right? And then we have Ridge Racer Revolution at $2.64, pretty much same price. This one adds some new tracks and some basic other features, but definitely a cool one too. And I think Ridge Racer Revolution is the one that I played the least, but that's it's still a good one, to have. And then we have Rage Racer. Freaking love this one. Awesome music, awesome tracks, and definitely more expansive universe in regard to the cars that are available. And then we have the best one of the lot in regard to Ridge Racer, which is Ridge Racer Type 4. Paid the same price for this one. I think I got all of these at a book off, but definitely a fan of Ridge Racer, and I recommend it if you have a PlayStation. Definitely get in on that Ridge Racer action. And then we'll move on to some sports titles. I got Golf and Golf 2. Maybe this is like Hot Shots Golf, but definitely interesting little titles. I haven't actually given these much playthroughs, but part 2 was 50 cents, part 1 was $1. So I don't know, I'll eventually get around to playing them. Who knows, they may be pretty fun. We have Street Racer, which I paid $2 for. I found this at a hard off actually, and definitely a nice little kart racer, and definitely interesting animation. I think I definitely appreciate the difference in animation. And then the other one, of course, is Cool Borders. This one has some awesome music, and definitely one of the cooler early generation snowboarding games. And as you can see here, I paid $1 for it. And this one's actually quite common. Usually, if you're coming to Japan, they're usually at $1.50, And then I have here Gran Turismo. Paid 50 cents for this one, and then Gran Turismo 2 paid $1. Definitely some cool racing games that push the PlayStation hardware to the limit. And yeah, if you're a car fan, definitely give these a go, as I think they still hold up pretty well. Maybe they're a little bit more arcadey by today's standards, but they definitely hold up. And then the final racing game that I got is Destruction Derby. Freaking love this game. I definitely prefer part 2, but this one is still definitely pretty fun. And I guess I'll just show off the case here a little bit. But definitely a cool one if you're into destruction, This is also available on the SEGA Saturn. All right, so let's continue with some PlayStation action games. I got the vanilla version of Metal Gear Solid, paid $1 for this thing, and it actually includes the little the memory card stickers, which is one of the reasons why I got it. I think I got it at a hard op in the junk section, but as you can see here we have the memory card stickers. Pretty interesting little collectible. Doesn't mean much, but you know, still kind of nice to have. And even like the booklet, look at that cool art. But definitely a freaking awesome game. I don't think I need to really say much on Metal Gear. Well, I guess I will say this. I got Metal Gear Solid, what is this one? Gosh, I should look at these beforehand. Metal Gear Solid Integral. Now this one is actually fully in English, definitely a cool one, and I mainly got it because of this PS1 Books edition, and I like the redness that they put on the cover art there. But as you can see, there's no like back insert, but definitely an interesting one. I think I paid about $3 or $4 for this from Amazon Japan, but definitely happy with this purchase there. And then we have, what is this one? We have Ganbare Goemon. Definitely interesting game. I am a huge fan of the Goemon series, Kid Ying as we know him in the West. Paid $6 for this one, but this game is actually not very good and I don't really recommend it. In regards to the PlayStation iterations of the Goemon series, this is probably the worst one. And as soon as you pop it in and play it, you'll know what I'm talking about. Then we have, this one is a freaking awesome game. We're talking about Jumping Flash 2. Now this one, it actually includes part 1. So this is part 1 and part 2. Part 1, as you can see here in the spine card, it's a little bonus that's included, but definitely an interesting first-person platforming shooting game. Kind of hilarious too, but I definitely recommend this if you haven't played it. But definitely a cool one. And then we got this game, Ghost in the Shell. Paid $4 for it. Mainly got it because of the cover art. I mean, look at this freaking cover. It's freaking amazing. The gameplay, you're kind of like in this little vehicle and you're just kind of tasked to destroying stuff. So pretty basic in that regard, but definitely a cool little collectible if you're into the Ghost in the Shell series. And then we have one that I definitely want to eventually beat, but this is Omega Boost. Paid $1 for it, and definitely a cool little game. It kind of shares similarities with the Panzer Dragoon saga, but instead of like dragons, it's you know, robots, mecha out in space. And this is from the same team that is responsible for the Gran Turismo series, but definitely one that I'm gonna dedicate a few more hours sinking in, you know. Well, anyhow, let's continue. We have Elemental Gearbolt at $8.80. This is like this, it's like a fantasy light gun shooter, and definitely an interesting art design, and I'm pretty close to beating it actually, so definitely gonna give it its due and get this beat, but definitely an interesting little cover. And I really dig the fantasy theme that it has going on. Now this one here is a game that I've played way back in the day, and when I see the cover, man, it's really striking. We're talking about Nightmare Creatures. Look at that freaking cover. Paid $10 for this. And this one actually shares a lot of similarities in terms of its like art direction, even like small little story elements with Bloodborne, but definitely a cool game. And this one is also available on I believe the Nintendo 64 as well as the Sega Dreamcast. This here is the PlayStation version obviously, but definitely a cool one. And if you're into like demon slaying, I definitely recommend you give this one a go. And that game was actually quite popular back in the States, I remember. But anyhow, let's go ahead and do some 2D fighting action. Freaking love 2D fighters, and the first one we have is the vanilla version, the original Guilty Gear. Now this game is freaking awesome on the PlayStation, fast gameplay. There was originally a Sega Saturn port that was planned, but you know, because it was announced so late in the Saturn's life, it ended up getting canceled, and we only saw the PlayStation version get released. And thankfully we did, because freaking awesome game. Now I believe Guilty Gear, the original one, is also available on the Nintendo Switch, so that's definitely an option if you want to check that out. Now here we have Samurai Showdown 3, and this one is actually, this port is not actually very good. You know, it has like long loading times, missing animation, and I don't really recommend it. I paid $4 for it, but I mainly got it because of the cover art and more for collector's purposes. but definitely a cool one. But you know, if you're gonna want to, actually, Samurai Showdown 3 is my favorite entry into the series, and I recommend getting it on the Neo Geo version. Is freaking expensive. It's about 200 bucks, but I have the Switch version, and that's definitely more than enough for me. And then we have The Last Blade. Now this is a pretty cool entry on the PlayStation. In fact, there's a mode where you can disable the HUD and enjoy the greatness of the pixel art. But definitely a cool game, and I ended up paying $5 for this one, and that was definitely a cool little find. And I do play it from time to time because I love playing on the old CRT. And then we have the King of Fighters 98. Look at this freaking cover with Kyo on the front, looking all serious. But yeah, definitely a cool game. I think I can't remember how much I paid for it. Honestly, I'll put a link or a little. I'll throw something up on the screen once I verify what I paid. But definitely a cool entry, and the PlayStation version is more than enough. You know, missing frames of animation, but whatever. Anyhow, let's continue. We have Street Fighter Zero. Mainly got this because of the cover. Paid $7.70. I also have the Saturn version, but I actually prefer, I think, the PlayStation version just because the native resolution is closer to the arcade. The Saturn kind of squishes things a little bit, but this one is definitely a nice entry. And as far as I can tell, it's pretty close to arcade perfection. And then we have Street Fighter 03. Freaking love this game. The Sega Saturn and Dreamcast versions are a little bit closer to the arcade, but they're also more expensive. I paid about $4 or $5 for this thing, and this is definitely a worthy port, and I can't recommend it enough. Definitely an awesome game, this Street Fighter Alpha 3. And I guess I'll just show these three at once. We have Tekken 1, Tekken 2, and then of course Tekken 3. Tekken 3 was 50 cents. Now this one is a dime a dozen. Definitely a cool and awesome port. Tekken 2 is probably my favorite in the series. Definitely like it, and of course Tekken 1. I think I paid $2.64 for this one, and then $1.98 for Tekken. But definitely an awesome series, and one that I actually still play to this day. I kind of like its old and clunky graphics. But let's go ahead and go on to some, let's do some survival horror. And we have the original Biohazard, paid $3 for this one. Freaking awesome cover. And this one was really mind-blowing back in the day. Gosh darn it. And then we have $2.73 for Biohazard 2. This one just took things to a whole nother level. Freaking awesome game. There's not really much that I can say about these games, you know, just because they're so iconic. And then we have Part 3, paid $2.64. And all of these games have English voice acting. You're gonna miss out on like the little, like the files, you know, that you pick up as you play the game, because that's all in Japanese text. If you can't read Japanese, you'll miss out on that. But more or less, the story and of course the gameplay is intact, and they're freaking cheap. So I definitely recommend those. And then we have Dino Crisis, paid $1 for this. And this is one that I actually haven't beaten yet. And like the Resident Evil games on PlayStation, you know, full English voice acting. Of course, some of the menus are in English, but all the little extra files, all the little details are gonna be in Japanese. But I think I'll get the gist of the story just by playing that version. And at a freaking $1, I'm sure the US copy is a lot more expensive. And then we have Silent Hill, paid $8.90 for this bad boy, and this is a freaking awesome game as well. Definitely gave some solid competition to Resident Evil, and you know, instead of pre-rendered backgrounds, it's fully in 3D. Freaking love this series, definitely recommend it, and it's, you know, it's pretty cheap. And then we have another classic one. We have the original D with complete graphics. Now this game actually has a little bit of controversy surrounding it. Definitely an interesting story behind that, and you should definitely look it up. But this game is definitely not for everyone. It's pretty much just like a full motion video, and you just kind of, you know, tap certain buttons on the controller, obviously, to progress the story. But it's definitely an acquired taste, and I freaking love it. Paid $16.50 for the Raiden project. Now this includes part 1 and part 2. Definitely a cool little shmup, and one that was actually quite successful here in Japan. It was definitely one of the top arcade games when it was first released. And then we have one of my favorites, In the Hunt. I like this game so much that I ended up naming my game hunting store tour series after this game. But definitely an awesome port, and I think in some ways this is actually superior to the Sega Saturn version, as it does include an arranged soundtrack, which I freaking love. Freaking awesome soundtrack, but definitely a cool game. I ended up paying $30 for this bad boy. And then we have one that I was pretty surprised when I found this. This is Wolffang by Data East. This port is done by Zing. And I ended up paying $20 for this bad boy, but freaking awesome game. And I found it in Akiba of all places, and I couldn't believe that it was so cheap. Usually you see this game for about like 90, 80, or $100. So that was definitely a freaking awesome surprise. And then we have R-Types. I paid about $50 for this. This includes part 1 and part 2. Now, Part 1 and Part 2 kind of run a little bit faster than the arcade original. And if you want to enjoy these games, I definitely recommend like the Switch version, PlayStation 3, 4, 360, Xbox One, Steam. Those are definitely cheaper, and they also have been remade in 3D, but they do have the original 2D sprites. But definitely a cool one. And then the final 2 games, freaking awesome here. We have Castlevania Symphony of the Night. Freaking love this game. Now, this one, it has like a little comic and art book, as well as like a bonus sampler soundtrack CD, but definitely a cool find. And I ended up paying like $39 for this. Definitely cool. Now, I believe it says that it's scratched, but the disc looks almost like fine, and it doesn't skip or anything. And then the other one that I got is one of my favorite games of all time, which is Castlevania Chronicle, Akumajo Dracula Castlevania Chronicle. Freaking love this game. Definitely, this is definitely my #1 entry for the Castlevania series. I don't know, something about it that I like. It has, you know, cool character designs. Difficulty is up there, but definitely one that I recommend. And I ended up paying $50 for this. Now, this one is available on the PlayStation Network, and I think it's like $5.99. So if you definitely want to get down on that action, get on the PlayStation Network. It's compatible with the PlayStation Portable, PlayStation Vita TV, the PlayStation Vita, the PlayStation 3. So definitely a lot of options to playing this game. Definitely one that I recommend. All right, guys, so for part 2 in the PlayStation pickups, we're gonna take a look at PS2 games as well as PS3 games. And after that, that'll wrap up the PlayStation pickups for 2020, and then I'll release a video for my Nintendo pickups for 2020. Now, as always, thank you for checking out Retro ReWire. My name is JJ. Please like, share, comment, and subscribe, and I hope to see you all very, very soon. Ciao.